Welcome back, everybody, to the About the Fans postgame show. Another week, another win. I'm Jordan. Got Petrie here with me. So the Miami Hurricanes, they win 52 to 45 over the Louisville Cardinal. Is that their name? I just blanked. Anyways, we were -5 going into the game. We covered the spread, 7-point win. Petrie, how you feeling about today?
Yeah, I'm feeling pretty solid. I did think that we would win by a little bit more than 7, but of course it's always good to cover the spread. They do say good teams win and great teams cover. So it was very nice. A little bit more of a shootout than I thought it was going to be. I did not anticipate us getting into the 50s and them into the mid to high 40s. I really kind of thought it was going to be more of a us around the mid 40s, 42, 45, and them having around 30 to 35, somewhere around there. But hey, still, I will take it how I can get it. And anytime, like I said, that you can cover the spread, you feel really good about that at the end.
Absolutely. So Cam Ward, another nice game. I believe it was 319 yards and 4 touchdowns. I think he had broken that streak that he was on earlier in the year. I don't think it's still going. However, he hit those benchmarks again. He's elite. Good quarterback play all around today. Tyler Shuff for Louisville. He was 31 of 51, 342 yards, 4 touchdowns. So interesting note, we had both mentioned that we hadn't heard of him before today. So he was the starter for Mario at Oregon in the 2020 season that was shortened for COVID, but they actually won the Pac-12 championship together, Mario and Tyler Shuff. So I didn't realize that going into today. I had to read up on it after the game. Very interesting, though.
No, that is very interesting. And to know that he has a championship kind of pedigree, Louisville is not always considered one of the top programs when it comes to championship contention. But to have that kind of pedigree, and you saw it today because he was throwing that ball all over the yard. He had a very, very nice game. Not sure it's going to show up in terms of the completion percentage and the total box score if you really break down his numbers. But there were a couple throws that he made that you're sitting there going, who is this guy? Who is this guy, right? And ended up having a really, really nice game, despite what the stats might show.
Yeah, well, and that can lead us right into talking about the defense. You know, so against Cal and against Virginia Tech, those were, tough games for me as a fan because it was kind of an emotional roller coaster, right? We kind of took our foot off the gas pedal on offense. The defense was not playing very well at all. And then it took some late game heroics from Cam Ward to win both those games. But, over the last 3 weeks, I'm kind of seeing a pattern emerge. And that is, one, our defense just isn't very good. I think the secondary is easily the weakest unit on the defense. I don't think we're terrible up front. I don't think we're terrible in the linebacking group, but man, our secondary is not playing well this year. But then also, Cam Ward is kind of let's just say that the points come inconsistently. Sometimes it's just an absolute rain shower of points. The other times it's kind of a slow drizzle. And I think we're going to be living and dying by Cam Ward this year, which the good part of that is that he's probably the best player in college football. The bad part about that is that he has very questionable decision-making at times. So
Right, and it also means that the rest of the team is unfortunately not so great. We've got a lot of very, very good players, but as you said, live by the ward, die by the ward, right?
Yeah.
So Cam has been sensational in moments, but at the end of the day, if you are needing your quarterback to go out there and throw 4 touchdowns and go over 300 yards to win, that's not always going to be the formula for success. Going back to our secondary, I completely agree with you. That is right now, as things currently stand, our weakest unit. The defensive line is getting pressure and they're getting to the quarterback, but getting hands up near the quarterback and even making contact in a lot of instances can only take you so far when the secondary is burnt toast, because the quarterback might be a little bit more inaccurate just because of the pressure in his face. But if the wide receiver is wide open, they're going to be able to make the adjustment, come back towards the ball, and they're going to catch the ball anyway. So the secondary is obviously our weakest unit. Linebackers progressing, and they're getting better as the games go along. But the secondary is really just, like I said, burnt toast out there a lot of times.
It's rough, and it's been rough. I'm not sure how we fix it, to be honest. I think, with the defensive line, we had kind of some ups and downs, but we could kind of bank on the fact of like, well, Ruben Bain's coming back. We have a lot of transfers.
Aaron, he was injured
Yeah,
as well.
yep. And so, there was, at least in my head, there was kind of this faith that it would all come together by the end of the season, right? Like come playoff time, we're gonna have Barron, we're gonna have Bain, Barrow's gonna be locked in, and we're going to have plenty of talent, Mesidor as well. So I haven't been worried about the D line. Wesley Basaint and Kiko Mauanoa, not worried about those guys. They're going to figure it out. I'm not sure what the answer is in the secondary. I just think it's going to be something that we have to deal with all season.
Yeah, and as far as the secondary goes, this is a really difficult kind of thing to assess as fans watching the game, because oftentimes you find that the players seem to be lost. They seem to just be completely out of position. Now, on one hand, that could be that, hey, it was just an unfortunate play call against that specific offensive play call, and that just resulted in the player being out of position. It could also mean that the player does not know where he is going and doesn't know how to get there, and also might not be athletic enough to recover if he misses a step, if he's late on a step. So we have to continue to watch and see how it looks once things like the all 22 come out, and we can really see, does it look like you were out of position because of the play call, or does it look like you were out of position because you don't know where you're supposed to be and you're not athletic enough to recover? So I am concerned about the secondary, but fortunately, it is the college game, and so if the defensive line can continue to get pressure to the quarterback, that's going to work out more times than not.
Yeah, I agree.
We're not dealing with Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen. We're not dealing with these kinds of guys. We're dealing with quarterbacks that are in college still, who are still learning how to be quarterbacks. And so, like I said, if the defense can be physical, get pressure, and even hit the quarterback once or twice just to kind of spook them a little bit, that's not it. That will sort itself out more times than not.
Yeah, and really, I mean, I'm pulling up the schedule right now. Really not too worried about the games ahead. I mean, Duke looks a little frisky this year, and we absolutely cannot lose to Manny Diaz. I'm not really worried again until, at Georgia Tech could be a trap game, at Syracuse. I can't think of their quarterback's name, but he transferred in from Ohio State.
Yeah, well,
yeah. So, we should be okay. I feel like the obvious trap games are behind us. I think the schedule is going to get a little bit easier here on out. Just need to take care of business against Florida State, who's 1-6, by the way, which love that.
I'm not terribly concerned regarding the schedule, right? So
yeah.
You did mention Will Howard, who transferred from Ohio State. That can sound a little bit intimidating because he was at Ohio State, but at the end of the day, he did transfer to Syracuse. He did not transfer to another powerhouse program. He transferred to Syracuse, and there's no disrespect toward them whatsoever. We are going to need to focus on them and take them seriously, but it's not like he transferred to Georgia, Alabama, Clemson, you name any of the programs that you want to name. Syracuse wouldn't be one of the first 20 schools off your lips. Florida State, of course, it's a rivalry game, and that has to be taken seriously as well, but I do think that we handle them relatively easily. And then Duke, yes, we need to take them seriously as well, because that's Manny Diaz, and he's going to be really trying to send a message and prove that he could beat Miami. But at the end of the day, they beat Florida State last night, who is awful this year, and they had one offensive touchdown.
Yeah, they are 6-1. But I'm with you. They, it's not like they've been beating really tough teams either. It's UConn, Middle Tennessee, UNC, lost to Georgia Tech, win over Florida State, and win versus Northwest and Elon.
I
So
will say I feel about Georgia Tech the same way I felt about Louisville today. I do think we're going to win, but you absolutely have to take that game
yeah,
seriously because Georgia Tech always plays us very, very tough, the same way that Louisville does.
yeah,
So Georgia Tech is really the only one down the stretch that I really have on my radar. You don't want to look past anybody, of course, but if I had to say, like, hey, down the rest of the stretch, pick one game that you're most concerned about, it would certainly be Georgia Tech.
yeah, yeah. I agree.
But I also we got to go back and talk about Cam Ward again because man, he had 4 touchdowns today to 4 different wide receivers, and you might have said this inadvertently, but you said he had a nice game.
Yeah,
Oh, he had a
he had a
nice
great
game.
game.
Four touchdowns and 300 yards. That's a nice game. Oh man, I'd hate to see what a good game is. I'd hate to see what
Yeah,
a great game is. So we touched on it a little bit before. You've heard me say this before. Anybody who watches the show on a weekly basis has heard me say this. Cam Ward reminds me of Dwayne Wade, but I have always said that in terms of a stylistic point of view. He's very smooth. He's calm, cool, collected. He's focused. He does not get rattled. So he's very focused and he knows what he needs to do. He's in the right place at the right time. But he reminds me of not just Dwayne Wade, but he reminds me of a Dwayne Wade with elevated physicals. Could you imagine if Dwayne Wade was not 6'4" by the skin of his teeth, but rather 6'6" or even 6'7"? A little bit heightened physical measurables. That is what Cam Ward reminds me of. He's as smooth as Dwayne Wade, but he's got the body of, like, say, a Kobe Bryant.
yeah, yeah. I think. I mean, you pointed it out, and it's perfect. We've kind of LeBronified the stat line, if that's a word, where it's like, oh, 30 points, 8 rebounds, 8 assists. Yeah, good game from LeBron. It's like,
Solid one.
yeah, good game, I guess. That's an incredible game for every other person on the planet. That's kind of what we're seeing with Cam Ward here. 300 yards, 4 touchdowns. That's an incredible game. It's just becoming second nature to us as fans. So great game for him. I do want to point out, I myself have been quite underwhelmed, is the word that I'm going to use, in some of the transfers, the highly touted transfers that we had on offense in Sam Brown and Damian Martinez. Both of them had fantastic games today. Very happy to see that. Redemption games for them. Martinez with 12 carries, 89 yards, 1 touchdown. Sam Brown with 3 receptions, 125 yards. Most of that was yak yardage as well, and a touchdown. Fantastic games for those two guys. Very excited for them.
Yeah, and I am too. I know you said underwhelmed. I'm not sure if you've ever seen the movie 10 Things I Hate About You, but I'm going to continue with Dwayne Wade. His wife, Gabrielle Union, has a line in that one. I know you can be overwhelmed, and I know that you can be underwhelmed, but can you ever just be whelmed? Right? So to this point throughout the season, I've been whelmed. I've just been whelmed. I'm not disappointed. I don't think that they are bad or that they've underdelivered, but I think that they've been football players on the team and they've done kind of maybe what they've been asked to do. Sam Brown, a lot of people have said that he has underdelivered. He might not really have all of the physical talent in the world, and I agree. When you see him run, he's not going to get separation and just break it open and take it to the house, but he runs very instinctually. As you mentioned, all of the yak yardage. He has a way of making an 8-yard catch turn into 15, or for example, today, a 10-yard catch turn into 50 or 55 or whatever that number was when he broke that one open earlier. He runs very instinctually. Damian Martinez, I think that they're just letting him be a bell cow. They want to just use the running backs as a way to control the clock and manage the game from that kind of a standpoint. But I think a lot of Canes fans, and we can transition into this talking about the running backs. A lot of Canes fans want to see more of Mark Fletcher, and I do not blame them because when he touches the ball, he's going crazy. He's getting 7, 8, 9, 10 yards per carry sometimes. It's nuts.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. The running backs, and you can lead us into the running back room, but nice day from Mark Fletcher as well. He did have a fumble, which was kind of the lone not so great spot on his day, but I count me among the people that want to see more Mark Fletcher. I actually would love to see more AJ Allen as well. We really have a just a glut of talent in the running back room right now.
And I love that you mentioned AJ Allen, and this is where we're going to kind of nerd out a little bit on the show. But when it comes to Damian Martinez and Mark Fletcher, it reminds me of, and the football heads are going to kill me for bringing up Star Wars. But if you know Star Wars, it's the Sith, the rule of two. There is always one who holds the power and is not ready to give it up. And then there is the apprentice who craves the power and is ready to take it over. Damian Martinez is the leader who is holding the power currently, and he is not quite ready to give it up yet. He showed today that he can still be that guy. He had a huge physical run today that went for almost 20 yards, and then he had another one that actually was the touchdown, if I'm not mistaken. He is not ready to give up that power yet. However, Mark Fletcher sees that, and he says, I want that. That's for me. I'm supposed to be the one. And he is ready to take that over in the years to come. We mentioned AJ Allen, right? Next year, Mark Fletcher will be the Sith Lord who holds the power, and AJ Allen will be the apprentice who craves that power. And it's a terrific way, a more simple, non-dorky way to describe it would just to be to say it's a waterfall of talent. You have the bell cow, the leader, the number one running back, and then the running back two, who will take his spot next year and then be replaced by RB3, and then so on and so forth. It's a waterfall of talent, and it's a beautiful thing to see.
Yeah, absolutely. And the talent doesn't even stop there at AJ Allen. We have Jordan Lyle and Chris Johnson, and I mean, we have like 5 years of solid running back production on this roster already. So
of course, and high school recruiting doesn't look like it's going anywhere, especially the way Mirabal and Cristobal are recruiting offensive line. Hello. And transfer portal is not an issue as well. Cristobal and the rest of the coaches have shown that they are not ashamed to go into that portal and get mercenaries who are talented and ready to make a name for themselves before they go to the NFL.
Yeah. Yeah, so I guess changing it up a little bit, one of the tweets that I had was the last 3 weeks have kind of tempered my expectations a little bit. But one of the things I was thinking during the game was like, we might win this game, we might not. We might win a lot of games this year. We might not win a lot more of these. But I don't think we should expect more than like a 2017 type year, where it's a excuse me, I need to cough. Where we have a flawed team, a flawed roster, with very obvious flaws that could potentially make us lose games here or there. However, we do have some stuff going for us. We're getting good bounces. We have Cam Ward. I wish there was a little more talent around Cam Ward. It kind of feels like Cam Ward and a bunch of dudes. I saw someone say that earlier. That's not great. But, I wouldn't be surprised if we finished undefeated. I wouldn't be surprised if we win if we lose 2 games in the regular season at this point. I don't know what to expect. All I can say is that my expectations have been tempered.
And that's completely reasonable, because from the quarterback room standpoint, I am not really too terribly concerned, because even though Cam Ward will go pro this year, I don't think that Shannon Dawson and Cristobal are afraid to hit the portal and try to see which kind of quarterbacks are looking to play behind this offensive line, especially after seeing what it did for Cam Ward, who was getting late round draft grades. And now, not only is he going to improve his draft stock to a 2nd or 3rd round pick, he's looking like a top 10, maybe top 5 overall pick. He's looking like the kind of guy that NFL teams trade up to get. So I think that other transfer portal quarterbacks in the next cycle will be maybe trying to hit up Miami and see what's going on down there. Emory Williams, I would like to see if we can get some more opportunities for him in the end of the season. I don't know how realistic that is because if we're going to be playing in these shootouts, that's not going to be a great time for him to get good reps in live games. But at the end of the day, next year, he will be in his third year. So 2 years removed from high school. And then right after him, you've got Luke Nickel out of high school. And then after him, you've got Darion Coleman, who looks insane. Both of those guys look very, very talented. So I don't want to turn my nose up and say that, oh, yeah, we're set at quarterback. Yeah, it's going to be fine. But at the end of the day, I'm not tremendously concerned just yet, especially with the way it goes with the portal and NIL these days.
Yeah, I actually think my biggest concern, if we're taking a look like 3 to 5 years down the road, is probably the wide receiver room. Hopefully we can kind of bolster that group through recruiting and the portal over the next few seasons. But I'm with you. I think O-line, QB, running back, we're looking pretty good.
Yeah. And, I hate to just bring up cliches, but as we all know, it does start with the trenches. When it comes to the offensive line and the defensive line, that establishes the rest of the flow on either side of the ball. The offensive line and the defensive line are stacked. Okay, quarterbacks want to play behind an offensive line that can block because they're not going to get killed. Running backs want to play behind a good offensive line because it's going to open up holes for them. Wide receivers want to play with a good offensive line because it's going to give them time for their routes to develop. Okay. Conversely, on the defensive side of the ball, linebackers want to play with a good defensive line because then they don't have to be slamming their head in there every play and trying to make up for deficiencies and smallness, if you will, right at the line of scrimmage. The secondary wants to play with a good defensive line because, of course, they're going to get to the quarterback and get pressure, and that gives them opportunities for pass breakups and interceptions. So I'm really not concerned at all. Mirabal, Jason Taylor, and then Cristobal, obviously, overall, they are crushing it with offensive line and defensive line recruitment, whether it's high school or the portal. And that creates a domino effect for the other positions.
Yep. That made me think of one thing is Mario kind of had a reputation of a guy who the weak spot in his coaching ability was on Saturdays. I'm not sure I'm ready to declare that totally solved, but it is nice seeing us win close games with Mario at the helm. Maybe he's just putting more trust in his coordinators. Maybe his special assistant that helps him with the clock is helping out there. But I do think that is of note to see improvement Mario Saturdays.
No, and that really is the thing because even though he might have a special assistant and even though he might be deferring more to the offensive and defensive coordinators, that's all fine and well. But at the end of the day, how we use timeouts, what kind of decisions we make on third and short or third and long even, and any situation with fourth down, those are still going through Cristobal at the end of the day. Now, people were going to get mad about how he burned a timeout in the first half when Louisville looked like they were going to go for it on 4th and 1. I don't really think that was such a terrible use of a timeout because nobody in the stadium, not even Louisville fans, were necessarily expecting them to go for it on 4th down, even though it was a short yardage situation that early in the game. And I think they were around their own 30 or 35 yard line. It was they were in their own side of the field. It wasn't even on the 40 yet. So I don't think it was a terrible use of a timeout. And then people said, well, he burned the timeout and then they gave up the first down anyway. Okay, well, it was 4th and 1 yard. Okay, they got to go 1 yard. My dad is very, very old school, and he says this all the time. If you can't get 1 yard, you don't deserve the game anyway. So in that situation, yes, he did call the timeout. You want to make sure you have the right play called. However, they still only had to go 1 yard. It's not the end of the world.
Yeah. So I want to have one more question about this game specifically. Well, kind of. So I want to touch on Xavier Restrepo. Another fantastic game from him today. He had 7 receptions, 101 yards. He had a touchdown. I believe that puts him almost at 700 yards on the season in 7 games. So I floated this on Twitter, and I'm putting you on the spot. So just shoot from the hip, if you will. But I said Xavier Restrepo is a top blank wide receiver in Miami Hurricanes history. Obviously, I'm not giving you a whole bunch of time to think about it, but what is the first thing that comes to your mind? Top 5, top 7, top 10? Where are we at?
3.
Top 3. I love it.
So he will end up number 1 in catches. He will end up number 1 in yardage. But what is lost in the stat sheet is these clutch moments, these catches where you go, how does that guy come up with that catch? Okay, he does not have all of the measurables of a guy like, I don't want to go as far as saying Jeremiah Smith over at Ohio State, but he doesn't have all the measurables of a guy like on our team currently, such as a Sam Brown or even as a JoJo Trader. He is shorter, more of a stocky build, not the most athletic guy on the field, but he is so sharp. He knows between the ears exactly what he is doing. And instincts matter, preparation and intelligence matter. He is in the right place at the right time almost all of the time. And he is above and away my current favorite player on the team.
Yep.
Let that bias go to the side. He is a top 3 receiver all time. He will be number 1 in yards. He will be number 1 in catches. And I'm not sure exactly where the touchdown list ranks, but I'm sure he's up there with that as well. By the end of the season, he'll be up there. And that doesn't even count the intangibles, right? People always want to talk about the big bang plays, right? Where he goes for 40 yards and gets some yak, or he gets a nice catch in the end zone where maybe he shouldn't have caught that ball, right? But just for example, we're number 1 in the country on third down percentage, conversion percentage this year. And today we were actually 2 for 2. We were 100% on fourth downs. We were 64% on third downs today. If you think Restrepo has nothing to do with that, then you just don't comprehend how football goes. Because even though it might not have gone directly to him every time, he's on that field. You think the defense isn't aware of that?
Yeah.
Of course they're thinking about Sam Brown. Of course they're thinking about Isaiah Horton. But they are certainly thinking, oh, Cam Ward's going to throw it to Restrepo. I know he's going to throw it to Restrepo. I know he's going to throw it to Restrepo. Psychological warfare. And then all of a sudden, Isaiah Horton's butt naked 15 yards down the field, ready for a catch, okay?
Yep.
We convert a high percentage of third and fourth downs simply by Restrepo being on the field. Top 3 wide receiver in Miami Hurricanes history. And I say that wearing big 47, the playmaker Michael Irvin's jersey. Who's Michael Irvin's favorite player on the sidelines? You see it when we're watching the games. Anytime Restrepo makes a catch, he goes off the field. Michael Irvin is immediately there, coked out of his mind, ready to hype up Restrepo.
Yeah.
And if the playmaker co-signs you, then I co-sign you.
Yeah, I don't have an argument against that at all. It's unfortunate that Restrepo might end up lacking any big game moments. I think that would be a huge disservice to him in his legacy as a Miami Hurricane. Not anything that he can help. I mean, he's just one guy on a 53-man roster, 82-man roster, right? So I wouldn't blame him for the lack of big game championship level moments. But like you said, every week, even just this season is a microcosm of it. Every single week, clutch catches, clutch plays. You used instinctual running for Sam Brown earlier. I mean, Xavier Restrepo is a perfect example of that himself. That big play that he had today in the fourth quarter, catching it, getting all the way down to like the 3 or 4 yard line and yardage after the catch. He's just amazing. And today he probably should have had his second catch on the season where he was flat on his back where he made the catch. It was ruled incomplete, which I disagreed with. But the guy is just insane. He's incredible. What a delight to be able to watch him.
No, and he really is nuts. And I do just want to really quickly say again on Restrepo, because you mentioned, he's not going to really have one of those like big moments, like those huge explosive, like, oh my God, Sports Center #1 of the top 10 plays. And that's correct. But, and I know you've heard this before, it's a famous Bruce Lee quote. And he said, I fear the man who practices one kick 1,000 times more than the man who practices 1,000 kicks one time. And so Restrepo is a man who has dedicated himself to his craft. He is focused. He knows who he is, and he is perfect for what his role is to this team. No, he's not going to be Justin Jefferson or Randy Moss and jump off the field and make some kind of Monstars Space Jam crazy play. No, it's not going to happen. But you get that ball anywhere near him, and that's a completion.
Yep, absolutely. And I think it's no it's no coincidence that he immediately builds chemistries with whoever our starting quarterback is, immediately becomes the go-to guy, is immediately being targeted 12 times a game, regardless of who's under center. That is certainly just because of his ability, to make the quarterback's life easier and to make big time plays in all situations.
Yes, he's definitely that guy. By the way, I didn't mention this in the pregame. I didn't really send this to you in my notes, and I would be remiss. And I always hate that specialists are almost kind of an afterthought when it comes to football discourse. But I would be remiss if I did not mention, as I like to do, Andres Borregales, dude. Andres Bora goat leg. I like to call him Andres Bora goat leg. Okay, he hit a 55-yard field goal today, and he was 100% on his PATs the rest of the way. And a lot of people might overlook the PATs, okay, because they think that those are free money. But in a game where we ended up scoring 52, that means that we had 7 touchdowns. That's 7 extra points.
Yep.
Okay, so he was responsible today alone for 10 points. Guess what? We won that game by 7. Okay, so
Yep.
he misses that field goal and any one of those PATs, that means we lose.
Yep.
I got to give a big shout out to Andres Borregales. He's got a great family. They're very, very nice on Twitter. His brother's a great supporter, and he's a hard worker as well. But Andres Borregales, ice money, dude. He is cash. He's so good.
Absolutely. So 10 points, that was the most out of any Hurricanes player today. We scored 7 touchdowns. Everyone just had 1 apiece. So 6 points, Andy with 10. Looking at Louisville, they only had 1 player, Ja'Cory Brooks, score more than that themselves. So in a game where 97 total points were scored, Andy Borregales, number 2 in points today.
Yeah, exactly. 97 total points, and he had what's that figure? About 12%. Then 11 or 12% of them. The kicker. Hello.
Yeah. Amazing. Any last thoughts before we close up for the week? It's officially FSU week tomorrow, so we got.
It is officially FSU week tomorrow. I know that a lot is going to be made about Louisville's kickoff return touchdown, and yes, that's valid. It's tough giving up a kickoff return touchdown. However, we recovered a fumble in the end zone, and that ended up being a touchdown for us. So if you wanted to call those both fluky and wipe them off the board, I would be okay with that. Those are about a wash. And geez, I don't know. I think we kind of touched everything else. I mean, did we talk about Louisville running all those trick plays? I don't remember if we touched on that. They
I don't think we
ran
did.
so many. They ran so many trick plays, so many fake plays, and I'm not going to say. Well, okay, you're going to appreciate this. I'm not going to say it was Jimmy Johnson who had it first, but it was Jimmy Johnson who made it famous. Go Miami Hurricanes. We're not always first, but we're the ones that make it a thing. And he said, if they are willing to run all those crazy trick plays and fakes, it's because they know that they cannot beat you straight up. My mother is a 65-year-old woman, and she texted me probably at the beginning of the third quarter after they ran like a fake punt. I can't remember at what point in the game it was. She texted me and she goes, at what point are they going to figure out that they're running trick plays, that they're running fake plays? Be serious. we don't need to send so much pressure when you know that they're running a fake or you know that they're running a trick play. Drop a few in coverage. My mother told me that. And what is with this guy, Lance Guidry? Hello. I don't want we don't need to rehash that one, but I did have to say that. How do you not realize that they're running trick plays after they ran 3 or 4 in the first quarter? Okay.
Yeah.
They probably had 5 or 6 before halftime. You know they're running trick plays. You know they're running fake plays.
Yeah. We could get into this another time because it's a rabbit hole to go down. But it's funny because if you would have asked me last year, I would have said Guidry is great and Dawson is a work in progress. This year, it's kind of the opposite. But you know what the honest truth probably is that each of those guys and probably coordinators in general are only as good as the personnel that they're working with. Last year we were loaded in defensive talent, struggled finding a quarterback last season. This year, kind of the opposite. We're loaded on offense. We're kind of struggling with our defense, with our secondary personnel. So I don't know. We'll see. But I'm with you. I was kind of frustrated with the defensive side of the ball and Guidry today. So.
Quick last thing. Oh my God,
Yeah.
I would be remiss if I don't mention this. Do you know Tim Reynolds? He's a writer for the Associated Press.
Yes.
He's the guy that always comes up with these goofy stats where you're like, how do you even know that, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, the Miami Hurricanes are the first team in ACC history to score 31 or more and give up 31 or more points in 3 consecutive games.
Wonderful.
So we're the Big 12 of the East, baby.
Yeah. Jeez.
Anyway.
Our defense needs to figure it out, man.
Yeah, because, everybody's going to talk, all the shit about Florida State. And trust me, they have earned it this year. But they are still a big-time football program. They invest a lot of time and effort and money into football and into their resources. They still recruit at a solid level. So everybody's going to say, oh, we're going to beat Florida State by 50 next week. Don't count on it.
Well, I feel bad for DJU as a person that he's not going to get to play next week. At least I don't think he's playing, because if he wanted to rehab his image on a national level, play against this secondary, he'd put up 300 yards and a few touchdowns.
Anyway.
He'd make the Florida State boosters feel a little bit better about all that money that they gave.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for watching. We appreciate you. We love doing this. You guys are the best. Make sure you check out aboutthefans.com for all of the awesome merch that we are wearing. And yeah, until next week, it's Florida State week here in 7 hours East Coast time? 8 hours?
No, it's Florida State week right now. Fuck Florida State. Fuck the Seminoles. Fuck Mike Norvell. Fuck DJ Uiagalelei. Fuck anybody who ever liked Florida State. Okay? It's fuck Florida State week. It's not even Florida State week. It's fuck Florida State week. You know the vibes.
You heard it here first. All right. Go Canes, everyone.